Hello, welcome to the third video in microeconomics. On the previous video, we have previously talked on the basic idea of models in economics. We briefly touched upon ceteris paribus, and we looked on the first idea, the first theory in economics, which is opportunity cost, or we also looked at the first curve, which was production possibility curve. In this particular video, we're going to be talking about demand. Demand on individual level represents a necessity of what an individual wants to have given at a certain period of time. Demand on microeconomic scale amongst the consumers can be defined as the quantity of goods or services that consumer are willing to and able to buy at a given price during a specific period of time. This is essentially the basis of all economics, whether it is microeconomics, macroeconomics, or international economics. To understand the idea of demand, it is more easily to look at the specific graph or at a specific example. In this particular slide, we can see on the left a very small table representing the quantity of carrot for its respective price. So at 5 kilograms, the cost for the carrot is gonna be $2.50. For 10 kilograms, it's gonna be $2. For 15 kilograms, it's gonna be $1.5, and for 20 kilograms of carrot, it's gonna be a $1 price. If we substitute these particular numbers onto the diagram, onto the curve, we're going to see a down-sloping curve, as we can see on the right, with price on our y-axis and x and quantity of good or quantity of carrot on the x-axis. By looking at the graph, by looking at this particular curve, we can go down to to one of the first principles, so one of the first laws in economics, which is law of demand. Law of demand states that as the price increases, the quantity demand of the good or service decreases. However, as the price decreases, the quantity demanded of the good or service increases. So if we go back to our basic diagram, we can see that with decreasing price, the consumers are receiving a bigger number or bigger quantity of the good. However, at a higher price, consumers are receiving a smaller one. So we can tell that the price leads to a movement of the points on the curve itself, which leads us to the next slide, which covers a basic understanding of shift and movement along the demand curve. The movement along the demand curve is a basic change in price. So whenever there is a specific change in price, the quantity demanded of the good is going to change respectively. The higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. The lower the price, the higher quantity demanded. This is a very straightforward idea. However, it also comes down to a shift of demand curve. Demand curve can change based on several non-price determinants. One of them is income. Income can significantly affect whatever the consumers are willing to buy. If consumer has a low income, it is very unlikely that consumer is going to buy or have any demand in particular product, which will result in a shift leftwards. If the consumer has a higher income or receiving a higher income, it is more likely that he or she are more going to spend more of the product and willing to buy more of the product. However, the income can also break down into two different goods, such as normal goods and inferior goods. Normal good is any good for which demand increases when income increases, and the positive income. So this is pretty much, and the vice versa. The inferior good is a good whose demand decreases when consumer income rises. Another non-price determinant, obviously, for the demand curve is price of related goods. So this particular point can be broken down into two different goods: substitute goods and complementary goods. Two goods are substitutes if the products can be used for the same purpose by the consumer. So, for example, one of the subsidies might be cheaper than another. So, for the consumer, it is a better initiative to buy the product that is cheaper. However, we're not talking about the quantity, and we're not necessarily talking about the quality of this particular product or the good or service. Again, for the complementary goods, we're not talking necessarily about the goods that come together, or a good has goods that have a very little value by themselves, but when combined with each other, it adds overall value of the final product. Therefore, the best example would be the car with engine and without engine. The car without an engine doesn't necessarily have a significant value or quantity demanded. However, if we add an engine, it's going to increase the value of the car and it's going to increase the overall quantity demanded for the consumers. Another non-price determinant is taste and preferences. Whenever this particular product presented in the market, was if it's attracting a high quantity demanded, it's attracting the consumers, is more likely that quantity demand curve is going to shift to the right or outwards. If this same product does not is not being popularized, and consumers are not interested in buying this particular product, whether it has a very high price, whether it does not follow the specific preferences or tastes, consumers are not going to be buying this product, and the result is going to be a shift leftwards, shift downwards or leftwards. Another example is expectation of future prices or and costs. So whether consumers are expecting the rising prices in the future, they're more likely to decrease overall spending. The quantity of demand is going to decrease, and therefore the shift is going to be inwards or downwards. Whether the future and whether the price is gonna whether the prices are gonna decrease in the future, consumers will be interested in buying more of the particular product. So the shift is gonna shift. So the curve is gonna shift to the right. And the final one is the number of potential buyers in the market itself. If the market consists of a very small number of buyers, then the overall demand either is going to stay the same or is going to shift inwards. If we're going to have an influx or increase in the potential number of buyers in the single market, then demand is going to increase overall for the different types of goods and services, and demand curve is going to shift outwards. The basic understanding and visualization of demand can also be supported by the linear demand function, which can be seen right now. Quantity demanded equals to autonomous level minus changing quantity times the price. So the quantity demanded is fairly straightforward. The quantity demanded of the good that is presented in the economy. In equal, the A stands for autonomous level of demand, meaning what would be the constant rate of demand for the good or service given that the price is zero. The B is overall change in quantity of demand, and the P is price of the single item in the market. This particular function allows the economists to calculate the demand in the market and see the particular changes happening to the market in general if one of the non-price determinants is applied. In the next video, we're going to introduce the supply, law of supply, the linear function of the supply curve. And in the fifth video, we're going to be talking about the combination, the equilibrium. And we're going to introduce you more to the idea of functions. We're going to do several different examples with functions, and hopefully many of you will have a strong understanding of what this function is. This video was strictly to show and present the basic concept of demand and start you and make sure that you have a very solid basis for your own understanding. Thank you very much for watching.